We own parrots, not cats. Could we not? Can we not? Okay. Hello. Down. Go down. No, not that way. Down. Go this way then. Thank you. Hello, I am here to talk this Saturday about a person that I'm going to read like for the next 3 books. I was planning on reading 4 books and following this person's reading journey as they rated 4 different books 5 stars, but I only managed to get through 3 and that's fine. We're going to accept what I have been able to accomplish and go from there. The person that I have selected to read like this go round is Sandy from ELA Every Day, and she is a phenomenal human being. She is a fantastic listener. She is such a good support for me and my students. I turn to her quite frequently for reading recommendations and for ideas to use within my classroom. She is a superstar. She's awesome. She's a Texan. She's just such a rock star. I could go on and on about how much I love her. So what I am going to show you are 3 books that I have read recently that are books that Sandy actually rated as 5 stars on Goodreads. And then I'm going to kind of go through my reading experience with them and then talk about my rating. And then I'm going to compare them to see how close Sandy and I rated the books, if we agreed that they are 5-star quality. So let us begin. I'm going to start the first book today that Sandy has rated a 5-star recently, and that is One Last Stop by McQuiston. Sandy actually sent this book to me as a belated birthday gift. She had finished it. She was looking for someone to purchase it off her hands. I said that I would take it, and she sent me a beautiful note that said, "Happy belated birthday." And when I asked her how much I owed her, she told me to forget about it. So I now have a copy of this, and I'm really excited about it because I have heard nothing but wonderful, lovely things about this book. So let me tell you a little bit about it. This is not quite like Red, White, and Royal Blue, where it's a little bit more contemporary, a little bit more realistic. This actually blends a realistic fiction of an LGBTQ genre into a science fiction-y time warp kind of plot line to it. So we have August, who is a 23-year-old. She just recently moved to New York City. She is living in an apartment with 3 other people and a dog, and she just started a job at a pancake house. She's also going to school. She's changed her major multiple times. But in the very first chapter, on her way to class, she meets this gorgeous girl on the train, and her name is Jane, but Jane is dressed like a motorcycle chick. She's got like this very 1970s vibe, and come to find out, she is like from the 1970s, and she's like stuck in this multiverse time loop kind of thing. August starts on this whole journey to save Jane from this time warp thing that she's in, and it is a love story. I loved Red, White, and Royal Blue, so my hopes for this one are just as high, but based on all the recommendations that I've seen so far, it lives up to the hype, which is good. I'm gonna go outside and read a little bit, and then there's reading sprints tonight too, so I don't want to read too much, but I do want to get a taste of what this is going to be like before reading sprints tonight. So okay. It's been an interesting last couple of days, like wrapping everything up. And because of the way we structured things, there was a little bit of downtime, like in between getting things done. So I had a bit of a chance to read. And I'm currently on page 128. They have determined that Jane is not a ghost, but they're trying to figure out how she got stuck in this, like, it's not a time loop necessarily. She, like, has just been stuck on the Q train since 1973, 1975, and she doesn't remember how she got there, where she's from. She didn't even remember her name except for the fact it's like stitched on a tag of her clothing. So August has gone into full detective mode, just like her mom, has like a map, is trying to find all these historical things. She's trying to bring up memories so that Jane will like hear a song and it'll spring a memory that she has. Jane didn't remember that she was like stuck on this constant loop on the queue though until she met August, and then it was like she described it as everything being really foggy, and then all of a sudden it like wasn't. Everything was really clear when August was near. There's a situation where August asks Jane out and she rejects her because she knows she can't leave the train, and August like starts planning a different route to get to school every day. And in that time, it's like a week's worth, I think, of her avoiding Jane. Jane says that everything starts to get foggy again. So it's really clear when August is near. I have a hunch of something, that there is a connection between Jane and August, and it is a specific person, but I don't want to get too into it because I feel like that is probably accurate, and I don't want to give away the ending of that connection because I think somehow that's going to come up way later. So that's my theory. But now we're on vacation. Now I can like read a little bit and unwind a little bit and relax a little bit. So I may not check in again until tomorrow just because I've got some stuff going on and I would like to spend my time unwinding and reading, but not just reading, going and doing some other things, some outside things. So I will check in a day or two, depending on how much I read. I was going to update about this yesterday, and then I just didn't. I did read 160 pages, I think, 130 pages. I don't know. I'm almost at the end of it. And there are a couple of things that have happened that add into the plot a little bit more of what is going on. So far it has felt very similar to me as Red, White, and Royal Blue. Casey McQuiston has a very interesting writing style, and it's not bad. It is slow but fast, and the details to certain things that happen are interesting. How do I explain this? In the writing style, it is very... it's not flowery. It's not like a bad flowery, right? It's not like fluffy nonsense, but it's very detailed and descriptive. I don't even know what has happened since I last updated. I don't even remember where I updated last. There's a lot that's going on in this story. One of the major plot events that's happening is that they find out that Billy's is going to close. They can't afford to stay open. The landlord is raising the rent. So there becomes this push to have a drag charity ball that will raise money, and then they can be used to save Billy's. So that's a pretty major thing. They have kind of figured out what it is that has happened to Jane that has kept her within the Q train or the Q line. I don't want to say too much because there is a pretty significant connection to a different character that comes full circle-ish, and it hasn't fully resolved itself yet. But there is a person that August knows of that will maybe make an appearance at some point. I don't really know. That's kind of my hypothesis at this point, is that this person will show up. like I don't want to say too much because that kind of ruins the whole vibe of it. There has been a lot of growth with both August and Jane in their character development, and you've seen a lot more facets of their different sides and personalities. August, she's not my favorite compared to Jane. I think I definitely prefer Jane's character better. She's a little bit more direct. She's a little bit more badass. She's a little bit more like in your face, like riot girl. She's not gonna take anybody's crap. August, she comes and goes whether I like her or not. There's a couple of things that she's done that I've been like, really? But that also plays into, she's kind of she's not naive, but she hasn't really been sheltered either. I mean, there's just some, like, I don't know the word that I'm trying to think of to describe it. I guess maybe it is a little naive with certain things and just not having a ton of experience and then making decisions based off of the lack of experience, if that makes any sense. My plan is to try to finish this today. I'm in the middle of cleaning. I think what I'm going to do is go outside and read for an hour and a half because it's supposed to storm this evening and for the rest of the week. I will hopefully report back, if not tonight, tomorrow morning, and I will compare my final thoughts to what Sandy's review on Goodreads was and see how similar we agree and disagree about different aspects of the story. All right, I lied. I finished it. And I have a couple of thoughts. I think that it was done in a really lovely way where everything, all of the loose ends tie up in a mostly acceptable way. I didn't have a problem with the ending at all. However, there were parts of this book that were pretty slow. And I don't know if it's because of me and just like what I have had going on recently with things coming to a close and being really busy and not being able to focus on reading as much, or if there were just some parts in the book that were really, really slow and just could have gone a little faster to get to more of the plot. I mean, it was over 400 pages long, and it probably could have been trimmed maybe by like 50 to 75 pages at least, with some of the repetitiveness that went on. But I also understand some of it was necessary to kind of build up the plot. I think that I want to rate this. I hate doing half stars or quarter stars or whatever. I feel like it wasn't as good as Red, White, and Royal Blue, but I still really enjoyed it. But I feel like I want to give it a 4. But I kind of want to give it a 5. Only because the ending made up for some of the slowness for it for me. So, I think I'm gonna go 5. But I feel like I'm also conflicted. So if I'm conflicted, maybe I should just go 4. Let's see what Sandy had to say about this. So she said, first off, I had a major crush on Jane and her confidence that she exuded throughout the whole book. Completely agree. Jane was a fantastic character. I really loved her and just like her essence that she had. I feel like that's such a Nico thing to say, but she just had this power as a character that you don't always see. And she was a really strong balance to August, who was a little bit, I don't want to say she was weaker as a character because she definitely had her own strengths and things going on. But she was, like I was saying before, she like, not that she is naive, but there is a little bit of that for her. There's a little bit of innocence, I guess. And she's just not as confident. She's not as strong as a character, but she becomes it a little bit more. But I think a lot of that is because of Jane. She's like feeding off of Jane's confidence and using it to help establish her own confidence. She then said, this book is not only a crazy love story, but also a coming-of-age story. I don't really know how to put it into words how I feel about this book, but it was a warm hug that should definitely be read by all. A soul-pleasing 4.75 out of 5 stars. So, because you can't do half stars or quarter stars or whatever on Goodreads, she gave it a full 5, but then it was really a 4.75. And I feel like if I also did halves or quarter stars, I would agree with that. I would say that that's a pretty spot-on representation of how I felt. I think I am going to stick with a 4, only because of the slowness of some of the parts of it. It could have gone a little bit faster in some areas for me. Okay, so that puts us at Sandy giving this a 5 and I gave it a 4. But really, I agree with her. It's like a 4.75. Totally agree. Okay, the next book that I'm going to read that Sandy has also rated a 5 is The Cannon's Edge by Dusti Bowling. This is a book that is written in verse, so I think it'll help me be able to read it a little bit faster. I noticed that she gave it a 5-star on Goodreads, but now that I know that she will type in what her actual rating is, I'm going to try. I don't want to know if it's really not a 5-star. I'm going to pretend that it is a 5-star, and we're going to go from there and see if this is also a winner, like she said that it is. I know that I said I was going to update while I read The Canyon's Edge, but it was so stinking fast that I read it in a night. I mean, like, maybe in an hour and a half. It was really, really fast. So let's talk about it. So Nora, her mom, passed away a year ago. They were in a restaurant. There was a shooting. She shoved Nora under the table so that way she was safe and protected. But in doing so, she was shot. So that was kind of how it starts, is this conversation of her mom is missing. They used to do climbing and going hiking in the desert together. She and her dad and her mom, all three of them together. And now it feels really weird because it's just the two of them going out and hiking and climbing, and it just feels like something's missing, and that something missing is her mom. Right in the beginning, she and her father get into an argument. She has not gone back to school since the shooting. She's been seeing a therapist. She's been doing some homeschool. Her dad has kind of sequestered her away from people. It's like the less people that they interact with, the better in his eyes. He has a fear of being out in public surrounded by people, especially people he doesn't know, if one of them is going to turn and just start causing a mass shooting. There's like this internal fear for him of it could happen again at any moment, and the further that they are from people, the better off they are. They get to where they're supposed to be going. He has been pushing for her to read things that she's written, and she's just not comfortable with it. So she actually does read to him a poem, but it's a poem about going back to school. And he's like, nope, absolutely not. So they start this argument. As they are arguing, this, not tsunami, but it's like this rush of water comes barreling at them through the canyon, and they're on the canyon floor. So the only place they can go is up. They're literally trapped in this like little sliver of space, and this water is gushing toward them. So he throws her up onto a cliff as like high up as he can get her, and she just has to like pray and hold on to the rock wall while this water is coming at them. He was shot in the leg during the shooting, and he's had multiple surgeries. He is not as able to do things that he used to be able to do. It's just not as strong anymore. So he throws her up to this ledge, and then he realizes he can't hold on and just goes with the water, just kind of lets the water take him wherever it's going to take him. So now she's alone. She's like, oh my God, I have lost both of my parents. So she starts this adventure, this journey to go figure out where her dad is, and hopefully they meet up at a new point in time so that they can get out. She's lost her supplies. He had the rest of the supplies. Whew. That's the start of her adventure. So one thing I didn't realize is that it is not just verse. It is a blend of prose and verse. So the first 9 chapters start as prose, and then it very quickly turns to verse. And I marked this sucker up because there were so many different spots where I was like, oh my gosh, I was in it. She has a lot of survivor's guilt throughout. That comes up multiple times of like the what if she had made a different decision for her birthday dinner? What if they had gone to a different restaurant? Some of the writing in here is so gorgeous. There's different parts where she's like using beautiful metaphors and similes and imagery just to show her experience and the pain that she's been through, but then also to show how she's growing as a human being and learning from her experiences. One of my favorite parts of a poem was that she said, I've shed leaves, I've even torn away branches, but I still have what I need in my root crown, and so I can come back. So I obviously, I'm going to give this a 5 stars. This is really, really good. It was really well done. It was a super fast read. I could totally see using different pieces of this with students because of the different kinds of poems throughout. Let's go see what Sandy had to say. We know that she rated it a 5-star, but was it truly a 5-star? I feel like I'm going to second guess every 5-star that she's given it now. She did give this a full 5 out of 5 stars. She said, okay, so her favorite line was, I didn't want to survive the next year as I did the last year. I want to live the next year. I can come back. She talks a little bit about the synopsis, and then here's the reason for her reading. This novel in verse is one that I sat down and read in one sitting. Same. It's a story of grief and the healing process that you go through. I love the way that the author intertwined the current happenings with the flashbacks and the memories. They added to the depth of the story. I was rooting for Nora to find her father and make it out. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, there was like one time where I questioned her decision-making skills, and I was like, that doesn't seem like a bright idea. And it almost proved me right that it was not a bright idea. But it was an experience for sure. Okay, so I'm 1 for 2 right now. I gave this a 4, but I'm definitely giving this a 5. So that is what I've read so far. We will continue on shortly. I'm not sure which one I'm going to read yet next, but I have 2 options that I'm kind of sitting on. I have a couple of other things that I'm reading right now, so I want to get through those before I come back to this. So it might be a little bit, but I am going to come back to this and compare 2 more books to see how similar our ratings were for both of them. All right, it has been a little bit since I have read a book like Sandy. I am struggling to get through my July TBR at this point, and I just need to break it up with something that's a little bit more fun and lighthearted. So I'm going to go for Starfish today. This is by Lisa Fipps. It is about a girl who is overweight and the bullying that she has had to deal with. It is a story that is written in verse, so I know that it's something that I will be able to read very quickly, probably finish today, and come back and talk about. I don't know a ton about this except for what I've said. It is the author's debut novel, and I believe that Sandy gave this a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads, but I'm going to go back and double check that information later to make sure that that's accurate. But I'm not going to check it until I'm done because I've learned my lesson. I don't want to be totally swayed. I want to see how similar our tastes are. So I'm going to start this. I hope I will check in before finishing it, but I really make no promises because novels in verse I just tend to fly through a lot faster. They're a lot smoother of a read and much faster of a read. So maybe there will be a check-in later today. Okay then, hi, hello. It is I, and I have finished my 3rd Read Like Sandy book, and it was spectacular. It was a perfect middle level fat girl read. It was awesome. It was so body positive. There was so much good stuff in here. As a review, I am shocked at the things that were said to this protagonist. I am not. I have never been obese. I have never experienced what it's like to be obese. And that people are so willing to comment on other people's bodies so quickly is just a damn shame. I was like, not that I was thinking that these things were not being said in real life, but the author very clearly says at the end, there's like an acknowledgement of people think that she's like making up that people have said things. And she said, that's not true. All of the mean things that were said have been said to her at some point in time in her life. Well, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And this story reminded me a lot when I was in kindergarten, 1st grade. This is actually the story of how I got the earring pulled out of my earlobe the first time, because I had a friend who was heavier, and there was another girl in our PE class who, we were kids, we're like 7, 8. She did not want me talking to this other girl because of her weight and did not want me to listen to what she had to say. So she had clamped her hands over my ears, and I did not like that. I wanted to obviously talk to my friend, and so I went to pull her hands away from my ears, and her finger caught in my lobe and right out in the middle of PE. Blood everywhere. But I was reminded a lot of that scenario while reading this, of just how cruel people can be to people who are overweight. You don't always know, like it's not, a lot of the time it's not like they can help it. Sometimes it's health problems. Sometimes it's just body structure and DNA and like, you know, I'm not an expert on this, but a lot of the time people can't help it. And we're so quick to think that if they just ate a salad or if they would just work out, they would be fine. They would figure it out. And I know that's not the case with every single person. You know, I'm definitely book talking this, probably like the first week of school. I had put it on my shelf and didn't really think of it until I saw Sandy reading it. But this, the story, the messages, well done. It was well done. So I am giving it a 5. I need to get my computer to tell you what Sandy gave it. I know she gave it a 5, but was it a true 5? I think it was. Hold, please. All right, here we go with the reads of the good. All right. Okay, this is what Sandy had to say. First is a quote. "No matter what others say or do, embrace what makes you, you." Then she gave a synopsis about the book, and her rating was in fact a 5 stars out of 5 stars. And she talks a lot about her own personal experiences with her weight and her own struggle and her own experiences feeling judged and how much that she connected with it, but how much of the book was actually triggering for her. You know, she talks about understanding what the protagonist goes through. To have this book in middle school or even high school would have made me feel not so alone. Even though I was blessed with a supportive family and friends, weight is often a battle that people fight within themselves. I will definitely be adding this to my class library, but also as an option for our next unit. And then she has like a little asterisk in a side note and said, "It was hard to pick my favorite line because I wrote down 12 different pages that really spoke to me. I'm sure I'll share them in the future." So this was a for sure 5 out of 5 for both of us. It was incredibly well done. I loved it, and I loved that it was in verse. It was a really fast read. It was heartbreaking, but so well done at the same time. So I was going to try to read 4 books for this, but right now my track of reading is minimal. It's a struggle for me to get through books for whatever reason. So I'm going to stick with 3 this time, and I will maybe come back and read a different book, the 4th book, at a different point in time, or maybe I will pick a new victim to see if our thoughts align when it comes to reviewing and rating 5-star books. That is all I have for this Saturday. I hope that you kind of enjoyed watching and following and seeing how similar, I guess, that Sandy and I really are as readers. I often look to her to get recommendations because I feel like we are pretty similar when it comes to what we read. So this was really fun and I really enjoyed it, and I will see you back here next Saturday for a new video.